What's up, everybody? Brett here, and I'm back today casting some more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer. This time it's me. I finally got a chance to play a game. And guys, I think I titled this replay GG Trees. So I tried to take like a very Arguelin style build. So I've got an Ancient Treeman. This is going to take a second, guys. We're going to go over some stuff. We're going to go over my strategies, how I decided to win, because I used a lot of tactics to try and win this battle. So go ahead and get that unit card popped out. Like I said, I was sticking with a theme. I'm playing as Arguelin. I didn't want to use any elves that didn't come on the backs of, you know, their mounts, Hawk Riders, for instance, or Cavalry Wild Riders and Glade Riders. I felt like were acceptable because you can use them if you're playing as Durthu in the campaign. So my front line is going to be Dryads, which are pretty good against Brettonia. They do a good job of fighting against all of the cheap infantry that Brettonia has. They have immunopsychology as well as a 20% physical resistance and decent armor. So that's kind of their deal. I've got some Treekin here. They cause fear, but they're really just here to tank. I felt like I might experience a lot of heavy cav, which is definitely the case. And what they can do is they can just sit in like a brick wall and hold back cav all day long. Firebark Elders here. I brought them mostly because they're thematic and amazing. They have their Wildfire Aura, which gives a 25% flame resistance and an AoE, which is pretty relevant when you're playing with mostly trees. I've got a Branch Wraith completely stripped down. He's only like 500 something gold. All I brought on him was the Scroll of Shielding, so a temporary 22% damage resistance, which I make pretty effective for me this battle. Ancient Treeman here, bunch of healing spells and AoE buff, Shield of Thorns, Regrowth, and for damage I got Awaken the Wood, another Scroll of Shielding, which I thought was pretty important, and the Power Stone. So up in the air, two groups of Hawk Riders. I'm going to begin to harass my opponent's very wide formation. So I decided to put my entire force up on this little hill. It gave me two choke points, right? This one here and this one here. And I was prepared to fight in either choke point, knowing that I don't really have potentially the range or cav advantage, which is what lets you dominate the space on the battlefield, right? If you have the range advantage, you dictate the pace of battle. If you have the cav advantage, then you kind of dictate where and when you fight. So my Hawk Riders are going to come out here, start doing some skirmishing damage versus these Grail Knights. Grail Knight's an excellent counter versus pretty much everything I have. They can demolish me. They do magic damage. They're anti-large. So they're going to go right past any physical resistance that I put down. So they're someone that I definitely want to start picking off. And the Hawk Riders have decent missile damage, but it's not armor piercing on their missiles. Their armor piercing comes in whenever they charge into melee. So let's take a quick look at them because their models are pretty sweet. I don't think we pay enough attention to the models sometimes. They're really amazing in this game. And then perhaps the most important part of my army is that I Vanguard deployed Wild Riders. I have two groups here, standard, no shields, and two groups of Glade Riders. One with Hagbane tips, you only need one. It's a bit more expensive, and it deals poison. So you use the poison damage to slow, and then you get the standard DPS from a regular Glade Rider, and they pair very well that way. It's a good way to save gold. I see a lot of newer players, let's say you would take two Hagbanes. My goal is to focus one target with two groups, so I only need one set of poison. So that's kind of how I would explain that. So my opponent, very rightly here, is going to be starting to rotate his formation. I could tell he wasn't a newer player. He had a general idea of what he wanted to do. His build is very solid versus the Wood Elves. And he's pulling back his cav. He's moving up his infantry, and he's pushing forward with his bowmen in an attempt to counter my Hawk Riders. You can't see it on the map, but every time I get just within the kind of red, you'll see as the peasant bowmen start to square up, you can't see their range, but I know that the range is there, and I'm skirting around it ever so slightly as I maneuver to try and get these freebies, right? Am I expecting to get a lot of kills? Absolutely not. But I'm harassing him, corralling my opponent into position. Now, on the low ground, he's got one Questing Knight, Knight of the Realm, great anti-large. They can also do very well versus basic infantry. I mean, Knights of the Realm are just solid in general. Questing Knights are absolute terrors. Their armor piercing is huge. And a basic Lord stripped down. He's got Foe Seeker, he's got Deadly Onslaught, and he has Stand Your Ground. So giving those defensive buffs. And then a really nice cheap core. A core of battle programs who do very well versus Dryads. Dryads, I think, probably come out ahead there. He's got some very cheap men-at-arms with shields. perhaps to go out ahead and take any archer fire. And then also, he's got a single unit of foot squires, which I think is an excellent inclusion. It's just going to give you some armor piercing. It's going to essentially guarantee that you win really any melee fight versus the Wood Elves. They're not known for their heavy infantry. You have to go up to the Wildwood Rangers to start punching in that weight class, and they're way more expensive than foot squires. So here we go. So you'll see the beginnings of my corralling strategy. I have decided that I looked at my opponent's army. At first, I was going to hold this choke point and force him to come to me. What I realized is I can drag his entire army up to this point and get the surprise here. My units are hidden. And what I wanted to happen basically happens, right? He's going to bring in his infantry for a 1v1 infantry style fight. I'm waiting for him to leave his peasant bowmen alone. Perhaps he clicks them on my hawk riders and a means of like kind of auto attacking so he can fire and forget. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up, pull his archers out, his peasant bowmen out, but he's still microing them. See, he's a very good player. He's still somewhat microing them. But I managed to pull them out. Now the speed on the hawk riders is 110. So I know, here we go. They're not going to kill me on the approach. They're still moving. And I am very carefully, I'm moving my formation. I'm consolidating again. I'm being very mindful that he could go for some sort of rear attack. I'm going to pull off some of my units to come and defend this choke point, and then leave this other group here to fight his infantry. But what I was very concerned about was that once I jumped onto these peasant bowmen, that some of these cav would seek to help. And he will try, but the sheer speed of the hawk riders at 110 is going to be such that I can just pull them right back up into the air if he decides that he's going to try and stop me from killing these bowmen. So with the bowmen removed, I have range superiority. So I'm controlling one of those dimensions of the battlefield. I decided now's the time. His cav is over here. His range is here. His infantry is here. It's time. Let's sweep in. Let's go slow-mo on this charge. Sweep in with the Wild Riders. I'm going to pin them with the first group. And then I was trying to come in on the front. So there's the Spearmen at Arms, right? They are anti-large, charge defense against large, but they were not braced. And I expected that I was pulling my opponent's attention very far indeed. My Glade Riders and the Hagbane Tips are coming in just a second here. And they are going to go after the Foot Squires, who are not shielded, and shooting them in the back. We are going to do tons of damage because they are the most high-value infantry unit on the battlefield. This cav is going to get mobilized pretty soon. Spearmen at Arms pretty much dunked. They're going to get chewed up. And now I think at this point I remove my, what do you call that? My skirmish mode to prevent these guys from being weirded out by any nearby groups. So that way they could stand and fire. I'm going to let the Foot Squires get close. Their speed is down to 21. And I'm still being careful with my Hawk Riders. He's managed to move his cav up. He sees that I have this choke point, and he's decided better against charging right in. I'm going to be casting some spells here. I'm going to get a Shield of Thorns, and I think I also end up casting a heal here at some point. Maybe I already cast it. But at this point, we crushed these spears. We did a nice rear charge, 2 different rear charges into the back with these Wild Riders. Spearmen at Arms. I'm not sure if I chased them off, but I'm going to be moving my Glade Riders now. I'm manually clicking them, making sure they don't get caught up too. But these Foot Squires have been devastated. So to keep count, right, I've kind of gotten all 3 of the Peasant Bowmen basically taken out of the battlefield. And some of them have rallied, but we'll see to them pretty soon. I've also taken out almost my opponent's entire infantry force, right? It's just obliterated for almost no cost. My Hawk Riders are still safe. My Glade Riders are now retreating to the safety of my own front lines. My cav is engaged. I make a few little slip-ups here with the Wild Riders. These Grail Knights came in hot once they came in, and I wasn't quite on top of it enough pulling them out. I was really focused on sandwiching and smashing this infantry. And at this point, I think my micro lapsed because I was pulling my rear defense force to the front, realizing that my opponent was going to have to commit to a full-on frontal charge. Glade Riders still shooting down the Foot Squires, but they're going to switch their targets now to the Questing Knights, who also are not shielded. Probably the worst possible unit to come in here and start chasing the Glade Riders. What have I got here? More healing, Earthblood going off. Ancient Tree Man joining the fight. Branch Wraith joining the fight. And we're just going to start kiting these Questing Knights into oblivion. In a moment here, I'm pretty sure I put them back into skirmish mode. There's going to be a point where they try to go for them. And I'm going to draw them out around here. That's something to look for. Meanwhile, Hawk Riders, I'm using them to chase down Peasant Bowmen. And I'm using this group here to shoot things in the back. Just hover over the top of the battlefield, apply that leadership debuff that people get from being shot in the back. I have to be very careful about over-chasing because I have individually selected different units. At this point here, I was sure that I was going to get charged by these Knights of the Realm, so I pop a Scroll of Shielding to prevent this damage. But my opponent's micro slips for just a second, and that's it. That's all I needed. The poison damage comes in. They go down to 57 speed, and at that point, I'm going to skirmish mode my butt off and get the heck out of here. Ancient Treemen, I was going to send them to support. The Dryads are just trying their best to fight cavalry. They're sweeping through. We can kind of K-mode this fight here. Oh my god, it's beautiful. Gonna get some Awake in the Woods. The important part about that is that what it does is it applies, I think it's called Life Bloom. Yes, so it gives a little bit of healing to everyone on the battlefield. I'm chasing off these Foot Squires. My Dryads get caught here and sandwiched. I give them a Scroll of Shielding from the Branch Wraith so that they might hold. I knew they couldn't win, but I was hoping they would hold for a little while, and they really didn't. I just wanted to occupy those Grail Knights as long as possible to give my front line a chance to really clean up. The Lord has been isolated, being dragged down by Treekin and Dryads. Glade Riders still kiting to their heart's content. One Hawk Rider chasing units off. The other Hawk Riders are going to be going here and chasing off these Knights of the Realm. And man, my Ancient Treeman's still in immaculate condition. Still have plenty of Winds of Magic as well. I've been casting, been using my abilities. I had the stone there, the Power Storm that gives me more Winds of Magic. So I was thinking at this point I was sitting around 15, and that's it. My opponent's going to shatter. So I really was happy to cast this game. I was really happy to play it. Thanks to King Oscar I for participating. He was a great player. Maybe just one step behind me in certain micro aspects. I don't think a lot of people would expect this kind of a build from the Wood Elves. I don't know what the current meta is. I don't play the current meta. Never have. But I think this was a good build to counter mine. It's just I made better use of the terrain. I made better use of Vanguard deployment. I made better use of slowing tactics and magic. There was no caster. Instead, and I actually don't even blame him for that. Just for the cost of a caster, I mean, you probably can get Foot Squires, right? You can probably get another group of Knights of the Realm. And against the Wood Elves, you just want as many things as possible that can chase down the Wood Elves and prevent them from kiting you into oblivion. So, once again, big ups to King Oscar I. I think I played pretty well. My micro was challenged. I played the map. I played the matchup. I played, all the different, kind of elements of every battle that you experience in Total Warhammer 2. I really enjoyed this one because I felt like I made the most out of every unit, right? And by the end of it, I still had so many assets left. My Hawk Riders would still be great anti-cav units with a little bit of support. My Treekin were in amazing shape. If I had to, had this gone a little bit more south, I could have deathballed with my remaining forces, sat my Ancient Treeman and Branch Wraith on top of my Treekin, and just sat there and bullied them out with healing magic and defensive spells. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little battle cast here. I had a lot of fun playing it. I'm going to have to try and get more games in soon, especially with friends. I've been missing out on playing as much. I started college. I've been very busy with it. I've been very busy with everything in my life that I was already busy with, and now I'm very busy with college. So it's taking a lot of my time to get to play these games. And I'm kind of relying on you guys in the community to send me in some replays that I would love to cast. I try to get different people every time. So if you would like to submit your own replays, all you got to do is join the Discord channel. The link will be in the description down below. And there is a Total War Replays channel that you can go into, and you can just submit your replays there. I'll download them, watch them, and hopefully they'll be good and I can cast them on the channel. But alright guys, without any further ado, thank you so much for watching. Once again, my name is Brett. My channel is Good Talk Gaming, and as always, y'all, I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys.